What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel. I just watched Detroit.
They're gonna kill us, man. I need you to survive the night. Survive the night.
Finally, we're back to a good movie. Oops, spoilers. So Detroit is directed by Kathryn Bigelow and stars way too many people for me to get into it, so I'm just going to get into what I liked about this really sad and depressing movie. And I don't say sad, depressing in a bad way. I mean, it is a bad thing, but I don't say it as a negative to the film because this film set out to accomplish one thing. It accomplished that, and I gotta say, this film was very impactful. I saw some flaws in there, and there were some things that I didn't like, but overall, I would say Kathryn Bigelow did a wonderful job directing this movie. It feels like a documentary. You're in these people's lives. You're with these characters, and the story meshes in a way that I thought really worked for the narrative flow. If we're going by a 3-act structure, which is what most films go by, I shouldn't have to say that. My favorite act is the second act. It feels like a horror film. It feels like you're really with these characters. You get to sit there and experience this really tragic event with them, and I felt for every single character on screen. If we're talking performances, I thought John Boyega was really good. Will Poulter, I think, gives a performance that could be Oscar-worthy. I mean, we'll see where the year goes, but right now, I will say if we're talking Best Supporting Actor, his name has to be in there because he was menacing, he was haunting, and he was something straight out of a horror film, and I really thought it worked. Algie Smith, I don't know how to pronounce it, but this guy who played the character known as Larry, he really was the main character in the film. I thought it was John Boyega going in, but it really was him who carried it all the way through. I thought he was great. His character was so relatable. He wanted to accomplish something in the beginning of the movie, and that kind of got cut off and interrupted by these riots, and then he gets caught up in the middle of all this, and you feel for him throughout the entire movie because the things that are happening to his friends and the people that he meets in that hotel, which is really where everything goes down, is just so intense. I mean, if we're talking about intensity, other than Dunkirk, I think this was the most intense experience I've had in a movie theater this year. I was on my edge of the seat almost the entire time until the third act, and it was great. It was just so well handled. This is directing 101, guys. Kathryn Bigelow did a wonderful job, and I think she's a shoo-in to get nominated for Best Director. But we got to see what else comes out this year. Right now, of course. Jacob Lattimore was good. Jason Mitchell was good. Jack Rayner was good. All the performances, I need not say anything. And Jim from The Office, John Krasinski. But there's really something to be said for everything that happened in this movie. It really stays with you afterward. And I saw the movie about an hour and a half ago. It's still with me. I feel like it's going to haunt me for a long time because you see things here that you know could have happened because this is based off of a true story. And it's really intense. But none of this would have worked without good storytelling. And I thought this movie had a really good narrative. There were some script problems. There were some plot problems. But overall, I really think Detroit is a very well-made film. One of the better-made films I've seen this year. Now, negatives. I talked about a 3-act structure. You got the beginning, the middle, and the end. My problem with this movie, my biggest flaw, is there are 3 acts. 3 acts that are very different from one another. One act, you are gathering these people together. You're seeing all their stories. You're seeing how they come together. You have the second act that takes place in the hotel. And then the third act, which is a courtroom, court case, everything kind of tying up. I liked all 3 of those acts individually, but as a whole, I don't know if it flows as well as Kathryn Bigelow would have liked it to flow. Also, in the first act, I was getting kind of like, all right, where's this movie going? I'd like for something really, because there are things happening on screen, of course, but you're not really dragged into the main storyline until around the second act. That's when it really kicks in, and that's really when it really gets going. But overall, I think the first act for me was more of a throwaway act. I could have done without a lot of things that happened. Now, sure, a lot of it was set up and it was needed, but there were some things that was like, okay, is this movie about the riots, or is this movie about the things that go on in the hotel? I also don't think the title suited it very well because it's not really about Detroit. It's about the hotel, and maybe the movie should have even been named The Algiers Motel. That makes more sense to me, but marketing reasons, I see why they called it Detroit. It also feels a bit heavy-handed at times. I understand. Like, I am not in the position that those people were in, but I feel like Kathryn Bigelow wants to get a point across more than she really ever has before in any of her previous movies, and it feels a little heavy-handed, and it's like, okay, I get what you're trying to do. Stop with the relentlessness. This movie was very relentless. I felt uneasy at times, and it made me feel like I wanted to kind of walk out of the theater and just gather my thoughts, but I couldn't because I was so invested in the story, and that's just a testament to the storytelling. I've gone on for way too long. Look, guys, I rate movies on how much I enjoy them, and it goes along with everything else, like how good it was structured and how good the storytelling was and directing, so on. And while I think it was one of the better told stories of the year and one of the better movies structurally, I'm going to give it an 83%, just because there's things in there I think that could have been handled better, and this is just a movie. It's so heavy, and it's so dark, and it's so I never want to watch this movie again, but that's not me saying that this movie was not good, because it was definitely worth my time and definitely worth watching.
I just watched Detroit. It was very uplifting.
Why are you so close to the microphone?
I don't know.
So what did you guys think about Detroit? Do you think you could get nominated for Best Picture? I certainly think so. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. You guys are the absolute best. I was going to watch Dark Tower, but then I was like, these reviews, they're not very good. But I'll think about it. Thank you guys for all the things that you do. Be sure to catch me on the Stardust app, where I am reacting to and watching every movie that comes out this year. I would love for you guys to join me over there. You are the absolute best, and I will catch you later.